Today is Saturday, August the 10th. The past 2 days it's been in the 60s and cold, and every night it's been down to 54, 55 degrees, and we're just almost at 70 right now, and it's about noon. And just gonna do a little update on the death of my limo heifer that was supposed to be leaving today to another farm to get bred by a Angus bull, and I had to cancel that because she died on earlier this week, and I had the vet scheduled to come out to do a check on her before she left. I kept that vet appointment and had him come out anyway and do a complete health check on everybody and give me my prescriptions for all the drugs that I use. You notice here that when cattle are on hilly country and they lay down, they always lay down with their head uphill. But in the case with Bessy, the one that died, they were laying behind the house most of the afternoon. I took her out and I led her around the yard here on a lead, one of those halter lead ropes, and just getting her used to moving around to load her, get her ready to load in the trailer for this morning. And then they went back and laid behind the house again because they'd come out here to eat some grass in the front here. So I don't cut the grass. I just open up the yard for them to come in and eat everything when it gets too tall. And then they went and they laid down behind there again around 5 o'clock. And I found her dead just around 8 o'clock down there on the driveway down by the barns down there. And the vet looked at her and diagnosed that she died from the looks of her eyes, and how fast she bloated after she died. Like when I found her, she was already bloated up like a huge football. And I didn't really notice it until the vet pointed it out. That was positional bloat is what she died from. Now tubing her would not have helped, even if I found her alive still, because the tube goes into the runum, whereas positional bloat, it foams up in the actual stomach and it blocks off the esophagus where they can't burp it up. And I didn't notice, but in the driveway down there, there's a bit of a swale that was made in the driveway when I made the driveway to take the water from this side of the yard down over the bank to the west. And it's just a very slight swale and a very slight drop across the whole driveway. So like the dip of her head from her back end would be no more, over the whole length of her body, would be no more than about 10 inches. If that. And the vet said that was just enough downhill that she started to bloat and she couldn't get up. And she just kept bloating until she basically suffocated. Put pressure on the diaphragm and stuff. And yeah, it was just enough downhill. I didn't even really, when she was laying there, I didn't even really notice the ground, because I was so mad about her dying and upset about it, because I put so much into her and looking forward to getting her bred. And when I say putting so much into her, I mean like working with her and caring for her. She was like part of me, you know. It's not like these steers that I know that are going to go in the freezer. She was going to be the start of cow-calf again, and getting other ones with these other heifers that are coming up here. And I'd have a calf in a spring from her, and I'd be able to drink milk again, because I cannot, with the medications, the morphine I take and everything else, I can't stomach store-bought milk. but yet I can drink raw milk, no problem. And she was part of me. You know, I spent a lot of time with her and leading her around all the time, so that should be easy to milk when I would only need to milk. Because basically I was just going to calf share for whatever milk I needed for myself, and that was it. I don't make nothing out of it other than maybe the odd time butter and stuff like that, and whipping cream. But like out in the U.S. there, most of those ranchers are on the prairies and flat ground and stuff, and you know, here we have ups and down hills, and whenever you see these cattle laying down, they're always laying down head uphill, so that doesn't happen. And they sit there and they burp up their cud and they rechew it. But with her head was lower than her stomach, and it's like a human getting, the way he explained it to me, it's like a human getting indigestion, and you can't burp it out because it froths up at the esophagus, and they can't get up, and then they just sit there and lay there and continue to bloat. And she bloated fast because it was only a matter of 5, 6, 7, 3 hours from when I last seen her by the house, and she was fine. And it was 4 hours from when I had her up walking around on a lead rope, and she wasn't bloating at that time. And she didn't have grain or nothing. She had grain in the morning with these guys, you know, at 8 o'clock in the morning. But they get 1 5-gallon pail for all of them. These guys plus this one and the 2 heifers in there. 1 5-gallon pail a day is all they get, because I'm just grain finishing these guys to slaughter. And she would try to break into here and get these guys grain once in a while, because she was really grain driven big time. But their main diet was just the grass here, and that's it. And a lot of mornings even she didn't get grain because she'd be off grazing in the grass, and these guys would be here looking for their grain. And a lot of times she didn't care, you know. She had a good patch of grass someplace, and that's where she stayed. So these guys got most of the grain. But that was the outtake diagnosis from the vet, that she died from positional bloat. Had I found her soon enough, the treatment for it is hook onto her and spin her around so her head is uphill, and then she could burp it up. But by the time I found her, she was already dead. That one that was down in the bush, the one that's one standing looking at me? Yeah, the one standing looking at me was the one that was down in the bush last summer, facing downhill. And she spent 4 or 5 days down there, or he spent 4 or 5 days down there. But when I found him, he was on the hillside facing downhill and starting to bloat up. And he was small enough yet at that time that I was able to, with the steepness of the hill, I was able to get him spun around, because he would try to get up. When I would start to pull on him, he'd try to get up and he would do a face plant downhill. And as he did the face plant, I spun his back end around, so he was facing uphill. And then over the time, he tried to get up again several times, and before long he was at the bottom of the hill laying in the creek. And I was afraid he was going to drown there, so I ended up having to winch him up onto the ground. And he stayed down there for 4 or 5 nights. I can't remember now. I'd have to go back to that video and look. And he wasn't getting up, and he was totally on flat ground. And he would try to get up, but he would do a face plant every time. And he'd only try once or twice, and then he wouldn't try for the rest of the day. So I had my sister borrow an ATV from a friend of hers, because sure, I could get my truck down there, but it was really wet and there's clay here and it's a steep hill and it was moss, and I was afraid of getting my truck down there and still not be able to get back up in four-wheel drive. So we rolled him onto a hood of Ford hood of off this truck from when I had the old body on it, and I skidded. You'll see in the video I skidded him up the hill. I put 2-inch ratchet straps on him in an X pattern, ratcheted him down to the hood, and we towed him up the hill. And the ATV had a heck of a time pulling him up the hill, but we got him up onto the up top here. And as soon as I untied him from the hood and rolled him off of there, he stood up within 10 minutes, and he was up ever since then. And so I caught that when I spun him around. But with Bessy, I had gone in the house to make something to eat, shortly after 5, and they were behind the house at the time. So I just walked around the corner right there and checked on them, and they were all laying there, and she had her head up looking at me, and I was talking to her and everything else. And then at 8 o'clock I went down to do the last night's check, and she was dead. She was still, her mouth was cool, but it wasn't body temperature, but she wasn't stiff, but she was bloated up like, holy man, was she bloated. So anyway, today I'm going to cut the bumper off of here. And being this is a Ford and the plow frame is going on that Chevy, there's a difference in the frame. And this bracket right here is welded solid to the frame of the truck. But you can see the bend in the frame here. The Ford frames come forward and they bend forward like that. So it's sort of like about a 15-degree bend there. So instead of trying to cut them welds and bolts off there, it's not going to fit the other truck. So I'm just going to cut it here where the weld is. Right here, right across here on both sides, because I'm going to have to adjust it for the different widths of the frame for that Chevy. And I've already ground the welds out that I had here. I had one there and one here. It's rusted already because it's been ground for a few days. And on the underside, I used a gouging tip to cut the weld out. Thought I had a gouging, I must have put the gouging tip away. But I'm going to record this video for this later today, cutting this off. I got a few bolts to cut to get the bumper off, because this bumper is not going to match up with the front of that other truck. There's only a couple of bolts holding it on anyway. And once we get that mounted on the other truck, then I got, like I was showing you, I got repairs to do on the snow plow here. Being I use a pin for the angling because I don't have a proper pump. I just have a pump that's single acting for up and down, that's it. And there's on Kijiji, there's farm out in Manitoba downsizing because of the fact the shortage of hay out there, and I can get a Hereford 3-year-old cow with calf, not bred, for $800, and I'm considering getting one of those, but I have to go out to Winnipeg, Manitoba. That's about driving just in the truck I can make it in about 6.5 hours, but pulling a trailer would be about an 8 and a half hour drive, pulling a livestock trailer, because it's pretty uphill all the way there. So that's the update on Bessy and the report from the vet. Other than that, the other animals are in good shape. He said my pigs are a little bit underweight, but I had cut them back on feed because they were so fat coming out of winter, and they were being breeders, I didn't want them really fat. And the vet kind of agreed with me that the other pig does not look pregnant at all, and she's been with that boar since March. So if she doesn't have piglets here by this fall, she's going to get dunked into the tank. And I'm going to give the other one another chance. And talking to the vet, when I told her that when I just had the piglets, and then 2 days later she went and she jumped through the electric wire to the boar, and the boar mounted her 3 or 4 times. The vet doesn't think that it would take, that she would have taken it all, because the womb and everything is still expanded out so far from just having the babies. Figures that it wouldn't have taken, even though she went into heat. So we'll see. Come October, end of September, first part of October. But she's in there with him right now. But I'm going to be pulling the boar out of there and taking him down below before the 28 days is up from when she was in heat there, when she had the babies there. I'll probably move them in the next week or so. So I don't want babies in the middle of winter. You know, October's already going to be pretty cold already, and I'm going to have to move her down into one of the barns. Okay, everybody, that's the update on that. At least I got my prescriptions now of all the drugs that I buy for my yearly thing. Now I'm good for a year. That's the new law in Ontario as of this year. It went into effect July 1st, 100%. You can no longer buy drugs at the feed store. You can't even buy electrolytes. You have to get it all from the vet, and vet prescription and everything. It's a new law that was passed in Ontario, and it went into 100% effect July 1st of this year. You have to have a prescription from the vet and buy it from the vets. Because people were abusing the livestock medications because they were buying it for their own use, because there's no difference in penicillin and antibiotics and all that kind of stuff. There's no difference in livestock stuff compared to what's for human, other than price. Like, you can buy a big 500 milliliter bottle of penicillin for $17, unless you get into Droxin and stuff like that. Then it's, you're looking a little bit more, maybe $35 a bottle. And then there's other Exron one, which I also buy, which is similar to Draxin, but it's just another off-brand name, but it's just as good. Okay, talk to you later. Bye. I got wild Saskatoons all over the property here like that. Some of them are starting to dry up already. But the trees are right full of them. Right full of Saskatoons. And down there further, there's a bunch of hazelnut trees. Oh God, they got to be 30 feet high, and they're just loaded in hazelnuts. They're a little hard to see on video right now. Wait till they get a little bit bigger. I like picking them, but you got to wear good rubber gloves because they're really thorny, and you end up with them with your fingers feeling like they've been run through a wire wheel. On the other side of the property over there, and the other side is loaded with blueberries, but they're just starting to come now. Blueberries, and there's also Saskatoons over there as well. And there's Saskatoon bushes all up and down this side of the driveway, all the way down to there, and on the hydro line.